Hello everyone, my name is Steve Keating, and I'm going to talk to you about the benefits of forming and operating a writing group while completing a creative capstone project, such as writing a novel, a series of poems, or a screenplay. First, I'm going to talk to you about the benefits that writing groups offer. Are they worth the time? And if so, what makes them that way? Second, I'm going to talk to you about some of my own personal experiences with writing groups, detailing some of the reasons why I think writing groups are the way to go when it comes to dealing with a creative capstone. After explaining why and how writing groups are an effective tool, I'll explain how to get started, how to participate in a group, and how to avoid any common pitfalls. After watching this video, you should have a pretty good idea of whether or not a writing group is the tool for you. And if you're interested, you should have a pretty good idea of how to get started. Now let me start by defining what a writing group is. A writing group or writing circle is a number of people, usually limited to around 6 according to Temple University, that get together for the sole purpose of helping each other out in the creative writing process, usually through means of constructive criticism. This sounds like a pretty good idea, right? Does it work though? That's the real question. Unfortunately, there are no reliable statistics that point it out one way or the other. Every writer has his or her own method for writing successfully, which means that a writing group may or may not work for you. In my personal opinion, I believe that writing groups are an extremely effective tool, and when utilized correctly, a writing group can become a writer's best friend. Now, there are multiple ways in which writing groups can be considered beneficial to participants. According to Chronicle.com, writing groups provide emotional support and constructive feedback. For example, say you've chosen to write a 50-page paper for your creative capstone project. 22.5 pages in, you're stuck. You can't think of one more word to write. With the help of a writing group, you can gain some emotional support. Other writers can tell you that they've been there before and that it's not so bad and that you'll definitely get through it. Or they might be able to give you some constructive criticism. They might say something like, okay, I see where you went wrong, why don't you back up and look at it from this angle? Without a writing group, though, where would you be? Another way in which writing groups can be considered beneficial, again according to Chronicle.com, is that they help writers to stay accountable for their writing goals and not to procrastinate so much. Now, when writing alone, you have no one to disappoint but yourself. But when you're working with a writing group, you have to hold up your end of the bargain. You have to bring in enough pages for every meeting. You don't want to disappoint. Now, with incentive like that, writers tend not to skim so much on their own work. More writing is more writing. And if a group setting or peer pressure gets you working, why not take advantage of it? While I agree with the sources that I found and the information that they offer, I believe they're lacking two very important things: experience and true-to-life examples. I have not included many citations for that reason. Writing is a very human act, and therefore I do not believe that it can be defined or represented through statistics or anything of that nature. So instead, I will share some of my personal experiences found on campus and off in hopes that they might prepare you for what writing groups have in store. I do not claim to be an expert of any kind, but after working with a few of my professors and then branching out on my own, I feel as though I have a pretty good idea of what does and does not work in a writing group setting, at least according to my own specifications. In regard to groups offering emotional support, and I cannot stress this enough. Let me explain. For my capstone project, I chose to write a novella about a young man growing up in the punk rock scene of a small town. This is a topic that I know a lot about, and I felt very comfortable with. So I thought that I'd have endless amounts of information to pour onto the pages. Unfortunately, I was wrong. 8.5 pages in, I was stuck. I didn't write anything for weeks. And then I met with my writing group, which consisted of 2 different students, both who were also completing creative capstone writing projects. I brought them my 8 pages and they were able to bring me out of my shell. They were able to tell me that what I had so far was really good and that they wanted to hear more. They were able to point out spots in my work that needed a little bit more work, and they were able to highlight the roadblocks that I had set myself up for. Sometimes all you need is a different set of eyes to notice your mistakes. After that meeting, I went home and wrote about 10 pages. Talking to those other group members gave me the confidence to go on, which at times can be the hardest thing to come by while completing a creative capstone project. In regard to constructive criticism, my writing group also helped. I remember one time I brought my work in to be looked at. My confidence had waned a little bit, and I was feeling less than comfortable with my main character. Almost immediately after reading, one of the other group members told me that I really needed to be using contractions in my dialogue. Don't instead of do not. Can't instead of cannot. Whatever it was. So I took her advice, and almost immediately my story came together. I felt confident and comfortable with everything that I had up until that point. Now, what about the idea that writing groups help writers stay on track and prevent them from being able to procrastinate? Again, I'm going to agree. In capstone, part of your responsibility is to set up a schedule of what you're going to hand in and when. For my project, I proposed that I would write 5 pages every week and then edit on the weeks in between. Fortunately, I was not handing these pages in to anyone but myself. For that reason, they were often put to the back burner. I would tell myself things like, well, I have a test next week, and I have homework on Wednesday, and I have a meeting on Thursday. I guess I'll just have to write 10 pages of capstone next week. Fortunately, that doesn't work out. Things then get backed up. The benefit of being involved in a writing group is that it prevents you from procrastinating too much. If you haven't made any changes, you're wasting everybody else's time, and no one wants to do that. So though it may be a cheap form of inspiration, writing groups can often get you working. I know it really helped me. So it's clear, writing groups are an important tool to consider if you're completing a creative capstone project. How do you do it though? How does one go about forming a group, let alone running one successfully? I'm going to outline some suggested steps for joining a group, forming your own group, and also creating a methodology under which to operate. And an important factor, I'm also going to detail and outline some of the challenges that people often think are inescapable in working in a writing group setting. After you decide that a writing group is the tool for you, you must decide whether you want to join an existing group or form your own. If you choose to join a group, here are some tips for doing so. It's unfortunate, but writing group members do not often wear t-shirts or hats to advertise that they're in a writing group. They don't carry signs and they don't make scheduled announcements. If you want to join a pre-existing writing group, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. For a face-to-face writing group, I would suggest calling up your local coffee shops, community centers, or art venues. Inquire if they hold such events, and if they do, you're in luck. Schedule a time to meet and bring your newest work. It's as simple as that. Online writing groups might even be a little easier to find. Simply type online writing groups into your search bar. The trick is finding a good and reliable site. Some of the most well-rated writing sites include writerscafe.org, keepwriting.com, and critiquecircle.com. These sites are free, and all you have to do is sign up. Think of them as social media sites for those who love writing. They are that easy. After surfing through these particular sites, I can tell you that different programs such as character workshops, name generators, and paragraph-a-day setups are all offered. Basically, everything is set up for you. You really don't have to do anything else except write and critique others' work. So if this sounds interesting to you, check out these sites. If you haven't found a group that you're interested in joining, or you'd rather get something of your own started, there are certain steps that you can follow to simplify the process. These rules apply to both online and face-to-face groups. You must consider who is going to be in your group, whether or not you will assign a moderator, when and where you will meet, and how you're actually going to deal with the writing and critiquing process. For the online variety, it's much easier to join an already established group. If you choose to form your own, though, simply post some advertisements on writing message boards or gather some of your like-minded friends and tell them to log on. It's a good idea to choose people that you're compatible with, people you can be honest with, people you know will be honest with you, and people that are just as interested in writing as you are. Then decide whether or not you need a moderator, a person that will make sure the process is running smoothly, that everyone gets their fair share of time, and that nobody gets out of hand. If you're working in a friendly setting, a moderator will most likely not be necessary. After making these decisions, the process is basically to write, send group members your work, and wait on comments. Or maybe more immediate if you choose to utilize a chat room setting. Face-to-face writing groups are a little more challenging. You use the same credentials for choosing group members. Are these people compatible, honest, tough, and supportive? Are they able to give you a good balance of constructive criticism and encouraging pointers? Do you need a moderator? It's not a bad idea, but most likely if you're choosing your group members wisely, you're not going to need one. After choosing the group, you need to decide when and where you'll meet. This is where it gets a little bit confusing because you have to work with everyone's schedule. Someone may have work, someone may have school, someone may have family obligations. Whatever it might be, you need to work with them. So just do your best and find a time that works the best for everyone, preferably the same time every meeting. For example, every third Sunday of every month at 2 p.m., whatever it might be. That's just to make it easier. Then you need to decide where you will meet. You can meet at a group member's house, a coffee shop, a restaurant, or a park, wherever all of the group members feel comfortable spending some time. Keep in mind that the spot should be quiet so that everyone can concentrate. And after the when and where has been decided, it's important to figure out how the group will run. For example, how many pages should the works be? Are members going to bring copies of their work to read while at the venue, or are they going to send them ahead of time? Will the writer read out loud, or will everyone read silently to themselves and mark down suggestions as they go? There are a lot of questions to answer, but once they are answered, you're basically all set to go. Personally, I prefer to meet at a coffee shop, and I would suggest keeping the page number to a small number like 4 or 5, something reasonable. This can be based on the number of people in your group. Now, they should bring copies of their own work, one for everyone, including themselves. Everyone can read silently, marking down suggestions as they go. After everyone is done reading, each critic can stand up or remain seated and state their suggestions to the writer, making sure to mention both the good and the not so good. The writer can mark down anything that they wish on their own copy of the work, but they should wait until the end to make any responses or to make any statements of their own, which are basically unnecessary unless the critic had a specific question. This process can be repeated until everyone in the group has had their turn. This is how my capstone group worked, and it helped us very much. When done in an organized fashion, the process is simple, to the point, and extremely helpful. Unfortunately, there can be roadblocks. Common problems that people may encounter while either running or being involved in a writing group, both online or face-to-face, include the following. Dealing with those who do not hand things in and refuse to say anything in meetings. These people are obviously not very serious about their work, and if they're not pulling their weight, you might consider replacing them. Give them a chance, though. Let them know that you are interested in what they have to say, and you'd love to hear their opinion, both in their own writing and in their comments. Dealing with cheerleaders. Sometimes people are too nice to give constructive criticism. They feel as though they're going to hurt your feelings, so they hold back, and they say things like, "That was great. Don't change a thing. That's just going to be published, I know it." Let people like this know that you won't be offended by their criticism, and that, in fact, you want it. You want to hear what they have to say. Let them know that you understand their intent is not to hurt, but to help you. You don't have to take their suggestions, but you do want to hear what they think. Dealing with the generalizer. The generalizer only utters blanket statements such as, "That was good," or "I hated it," "That sucked." People like this are not helpful when it comes to a writing group. Push them to give more information. What did you like about it? What sucked about it? What do you think needs changing? Hopefully, these people will open up with a little push. If not, though, you might have to rethink your group. Now, dealing with the villain. Some people are pretty merciless when it comes to critiquing the writing of others. They just tear it apart. They tell you that you need to start over or there's no hope. At first, you might want to replace a person like this. Consider what they're saying, though, and take it with a grain of salt. Understand that they're not necessarily right with what they're saying, but they may have points that are worth considering. In a writing group setting, just treat others how you'd like to be treated, with respect. Dealing with the defender. Some people are not very good at taking criticism, no matter how nicely it is put. You may tell them that one of their characters needs a little work. They may frown and tell you that that character was based off of their mother, and that's exactly how their mother talks, and that is a very realistic way for a character to act. Let people like this know that you're not trying to hurt them. Just pad your suggestions with compliments. Be persistent. Don't turn into a cheerleader no matter what, because that's not what they need. So aim for your group to be well-rounded. Tell members to analyze work, highlight good and bad points, and make suggestions without any malicious intent. If you and your group can stick to this basic outline, you should find yourself smack dab in the middle of a great learning environment. While completing your creative capstone, a writing group like this can be invaluable. Capstone is tough, it's true. So why not utilize any and every tool that's available to you to make it a little bit easier? For me personally, I utilized a writing group, and it helped me immensely. Without it, I don't think that I would have been as successful as I have been. So writing groups may or may not work for you. But I'm suggesting that you try them. Workshopping works for many writers. Why not you?